All right, first step is going to be cleaning the thing up in order to make it a little bit easier for us to understand and work with. Okay, so that the first thing that I want to tackle is the triangle element. Okay, and let me jump back and forth between these two real quick. The triangle element I'm referring to is this piece right here, and at the end of this definition, that is actually right here. Oh, you can't see it from selection. So let me turn these off. There, those. Okay, so this is essentially going to be a subtractive exercise on the frame that we already have. What we need to do is break down the original panel, reconstruct it with a subtractive geometry, and then just do the same subtraction exercise that we did before. So the breaking down part is going to be this deconstruct BREP. We're going to use this a lot this week, and it's going to be ever present in almost anything we do throughout the semester from here on out. Back to the other one. So that subtractive exercise is actually going to happen on the already subdivided surfaces. Okay, so that would mean these right here, because these are our original subdivisions, and we can use the four corners of each of these panels to recreate something that's going to be more interesting. So what I'm going to do here is try to isolate some of the most important and most commonly referenced information, in that case the original subdivided surfaces. So in order to do that, I'm going to pull this part of the definition back. And I'm going to start to clean it up. Okay, so first off, the subdivisions, or rather, let me start with the original surface. That's this. This is the original surface that I referenced into the definition that was not subdivided at all. So I'm going to create empty params for both of them. So I'm going to go to param surface and plug that in here. And I can call this base surf. And right click this one and call that base surf. And then I'm going to make that wireless. Likewise, I can take another surface param, plug that in, and I'm going to right click and call this one subdiv surf. Now, even though this param is plugged into subsurf, I don't really have the name to refer back to, so I'm going to make a copy of that, plug this in, and make that wireless. Okay, so all I did here was create these two wireless components. Well, and renamed those, but so I'll give you a minute to get caught up on that before I continue. Okay, so with these, we're going to separate this whole block by replacing the connections. You just need to track which connections went into which inputs. So I only have one subdivision plugged in. Everything else is a base surf. So I'm going to take my subdiv surf, and I'm just going to pull it over here to this and plug that in. It's the same information. Nothing should change in your definition. It's not a big deal. And then I'm going to do the same thing, but with my base surf, and I'm going to replace all four of these connections down here. So I'll go down here to base surf, and I'll plug that in here. Same thing in here, and here, and here.
Can you go back now?
Okay. I'll highlight these and show you what I did. Let me pull this a little closer so you can see. All I did was take those two components and replace the original connections to this and to all of these components down here in the same configuration they were there before. See these green lines, the green wires that are coming out to the right? They're all just replacement connections of the same thing.
Oh. And those go connected to the thing with that?
So I'm gonna jump back into the recording so that you guys see this and explain what's going to happen when you have too much information, right? So when you have a lot of information in these definitions, you're going to have all of these references. Right now they're all the same, but when we do it in the future, it's going to be all different. You're going to have, anywhere from 10 to 20 different references at any given time that you're going to use a lot. You're also going to have all of these definition groups, which I like to call a completed idea, right? So this completed idea, that completed idea, you might have so many that you're actually working all the way over here at some point, right? These things get crazy the more complex that they get. But the cool thing about it is if I'm working all the way back here, I have a shortcut that's going to pull me back up to the top. And I don't use it as often because we don't generally get that far into this. I need to find it again. There it is. Jump. So jump has this pretty cool thing where I can put a little tag here in my definition. And then I can take this little guy, if it'll let me actually grab him. Yeah, it's a pain sometimes. I mean, setting them up is a pain, but I can even name this and say, this particular one is most important to that section. And when I double click that, it jumps me down to that one. Right? And so if each one of these has a jump tag that says, that basically says, reference box or something like that, then you just double click that and it brings you back to your reference box. Right? These things are going to get confusing, and so it's very, very important to delineate what your base reference information is so that you can replicate it easily later on. Okay? So, all thoughts aside on that, let's get back to the essentials here. Let me go back to where I'm supposed to be, which is these. So this is my base surface, that's my subdivided surface, and this is all the information that I plugged into it. Okay? Now I know where the subdivided surfaces and base surfaces came from. Questions before we begin actually generating the new facade element?
Can you just leave it for there, like there for a second? So we can...
Sure. Yeah. Oh, another final parting thought. You guys might not have exactly the same number of connections. It depends. Like sometimes, see, I used the same subdivided surface here, and I plugged it into my top definition and my bottom definition. Yours, you might have two. As an instance of what might be slightly different.
So
Yeah.
that is not an issue?
Not an issue.
Okay.
No, if your definition's working, it's working. There might be slightly more efficient ways of doing it like that, but you'll find those in time as you gain more expertise. Yeah.
You should find out.
Yes.